We would get anything to have Haley back into our lives. We've gone through a tragedy, but we've learned some very valuable lessons as parents that we try to not only walk alongside of the kids, but alongside of the parents.
Exactly.
When she was in kindergarten and first grade, we had moved from Oregon to Post Falls. And so she started at Prairie View Elementary. And I remember just having parent-teacher conferences about why Haley was struggling with basic concepts. And as it was progressively getting worse, more and more questions were being raised as to why she's not progressing like the other kids. That's when we found out that she may be dealing with an autoimmune deficiency. So when the medication was administered, and after about 9 months, we've seen this positive change in her grades and in her social skills. And so we were like, yes, we're on the right track. Something happened. I don't really know exactly what happened, but she ended up failing every class. She's got to repeat the same grade. Haley was fairly tall for her age, especially repeating 7th grade. Now she's the tallest 7th grader. Because of the social aspect of it, some bullying started. Then I get a call one day from the counselor saying that a teacher noticed cut marks on her wrist. So we immediately started in-school counsel sessions, and things seemed to be going well, but then she regressed and started again in the fall, cutting herself. And so we chose to do outside Christian counsel. Just so much changed, and we can almost document it with photos when it changed.
From smiling happy to just no emotion in the pictures. We literally could see a timeline of pictures that we took of her.
Just a progression of hopelessness. During one of her outside counsel sessions, I was brought into the room with the counselor, and she said, well, you're in this session, and Haley agrees because she said something in the session that I am obligated to tell you, that if she had an opportunity, she would take it to take her life. So we take Haley to the hospital, and they do a series of questions and tests to find out where she's at emotionally and her mental status.
And at that point, too, she still has some fresh cuts.
Mm-hmm. We did an inpatient stay with her, but we thought maybe a few days, which was typical from what we had heard from representatives. She was there for 3 weeks. Immediately putting her on high doses of medication for depression that she had not been on before. Our child's like in lockdown pretty much. You know, we have to sign in to go see her, and she's going from intensive psychotherapy and no other social interaction, but with children who are hurting. When we were ready to discharge, there was no real exit plan. I mean, they gave you documentation, but there was no, how do you reintroduce a child into the school? How do you reintroduce them into home? We decided at that point not to put Haley back in public school. We decided to have her homeschool. And she was doing really well, but I think socially that kind of hurt her a little bit too, because she didn't want to go to church anymore. She had this new thought process that God wasn't there for her, you know? And so she was making reckless choices. She ran away and left us a note. She wrote in there, it's better that I run away than what I could do to myself, or something like that. We entered her into the diversion program for Kootenai County. In order to keep her from running away and out of the court system, she would do community service. So she started working with Real Life at the coffee shop. And so just everything seemed like it was going well. And then she regressed. She was cutting again, and she was cutting other parts of her body. I remember just like holding her and being like, Haley, why are you doing this? Like, stop hurting yourself, you know, and not understanding why she's hurting herself and the depths of that kind of depression. And in her mind, I think that she felt that cutting herself and harming herself was a self-medication.
She was manipulating us to thinking that she was okay, just so we would kind of back off a little bit. She had this shell on that just, no matter what we did, however we came at it, she didn't want help. She didn't want to talk about it. She was in a planning stage of what she wanted to do.
On Thursday, September 29th, Jason and I invited the kids to come to church with us. It was rare that they came with us to a service. At that point, they kind of just wanted to hang out by themselves. And he's like, you know what, that's fine. Let's just go have a date night. We'll go to church and enjoy it. But later that evening, she came out and said, Dad, I just want to apologize to you for my behavior. I love you and good night. And he's like, thank you, Haley. I appreciate that. And good night. I love you. A storm was coming in and I could hear the rain coming and all of our windows were open. We didn't have air conditioning. So I went through to shut everybody's window and Haley wasn't in her room. She didn't take a cell phone. She didn't take anything with her visibly that I could see in her room. So I had no idea where she was. We went out looking for her, had no idea where to look. We had no idea who she was with or what she was doing. And we just decided to wait because he's like, listen, she's been sneaking out, obviously. So if she's going to come home, it's going to be right around when you're getting ready for work. Around 4:30, a car pulls up our street. And I'm like, I think she's here. And she came in through the gate. And he goes, don't say anything. And then as soon as she walked through the door and she's being quiet, he says, Haley, was it worth it? And she knew she was caught, and we never raised our voices. We had a stern conversation with her. And we're just like, what are you doing? Like, we love you so much. Where were you? We were terrified. And you're going to have to talk to your diversion officer. We don't know what that looks like. That could be juvie, that could be extra community service hours. And Jason made a decision to stay home that day, and I could not. I told her I loved her, and I said, I'll meet up with you guys. And I started heading to work, but I pulled over, and I said, God, she needs you. She keeps doing this, and we don't know what to do. We don't know where she was. We don't know who she was with. And just grab her heart, because we don't know what to do. And so then I drove off again, and I called him, and I heard them kind of arguing back and forth. She's in the restroom, and he's like, Haley, you need to come out and get your homework started because we don't know what the day's going to look like. And she's like, hold on. I can hear her in the phone. And she's like, hold on a second. Hold on a minute.
She'd been in there for quite a bit of time, and I was concerned for her. And I just knew that she was just in there to just be in there, but I didn't know what she was doing. I'm kind of yelling down the hallway, Haley, you need to come out. Let's get the day figured out. Let's do these things. And I left the hallway and I sat down. And I heard a gunshot. And I ran down the hallway to the bathroom door and I could smell the gunpowder. I yelled for her and the door was locked. I broke the door in and she was laying on the floor. Our son Cameron was asleep at the time and I was yelling for him as I was holding her and trying to stop the bleeding. She had shot herself in the head. And I'm hysterical, obviously, and I had my phone in my hand at the time, so I'm literally dialing 911 and holding her at the same time. I was just calling to her as I held her. I could hear the law enforcement coming through the door, and they were there quick. They were really quick, within minutes. And they yelled for me to get out of the way. And as I moved out of the way, and they kind of pulled her into the hallway and started working on her. And they worked on her for quite a while, but she died in our hallway.
They wouldn't even let me see her. They said it wasn't best if I did. And I just remember when the chaplain came and they prepared to take Haley out of our home. They asked if we wanted to go in and say goodbye. And all I see is a stretcher and a black body bag and my daughter's hand with blood on it and her fingernail polish. That's it. That's what I got to say goodbye. It was so cold, and all I wanted to do was bring her to life. When the detectives came in and they're trying to tell the story, right? They're trying to figure out the placement of her and the firearm, and they're trying to figure out what happened. They determined that Haley was sitting on the edge of the bathtub. The only decor in the whole bathroom was a cross on the wall adjacent from her. And we have said many times that there were two in the room with her, the enemy and God. And it doesn't, she made a choice, but it doesn't mean that his love and mercy in reaching down his hand in that moment, I will show you what you thought you didn't have here, because I love you that much, but this isn't what I wanted for you.
We get asked quite a bit, were you mad at God for what happened? That was just something for me that just never crossed my mind. As a matter of fact, it was more of the opposite. It was just like, I need you now more than ever.
It was like you have this relationship with God and Christ, and you may even think that you're walking with him through life, like if you're in your life group or you come and attend church. But when something that tragic or any tragedy happens, you recognize real quick what walking with God looks like. We wanted bracelets to be made to remember Haley, like for family, and it was at the memorial service. So we're writing in the notebook all of these different things that aren't trademarked that maybe we could write that would mean something. We came up with You're Irreplaceable. Your life is so valuable to so many, but how do we bring that hope back into the hopelessness that you feel right now? The next phrase was trust tomorrow, because even though it's so dark right now, that tomorrow will come. Trust in that tomorrow will come. And then it may not be solved, but it will be better because tomorrow came. That day ended. And then the next one was let your words be life, because we have this brief opportunity in this world that we live in right now to speak life or speak death into someone. Haley's favorite colors are purple and teal. We didn't know at the time that purple and teal were suicide awareness colors and that Haley died in Suicide Awareness Month. When we found that out, it just was an opportunity for us to be like, okay, well, now we want to involve our community. So we did a GoFundMe and got our community rallied together to bring in 15,000 bracelets. And so our community did that. They donated to the GoFundMe, and we said we wanted the 15,000 bracelets so that we could work with Suicide Prevention Action Network of Idaho and get these into our community so that we can start helping kids and working in the school districts.
We see a lot of bracelets around all the time in this area. It gives us an opportunity to ask them where they got their bracelet from and if they know about the story behind it.
It was never meant to stop with Haley. Maybe it'll give you enough courage to talk about your story so you can help someone else.
One of the things that we talk to the kids about is that you're not alone in this. This is not your fight alone. We are here.
We understand that it's not going to get easier for your 8th grader. It's going to get harder for your 8th, 9th, 10th, and so on and so forth. You may not see like visible signs, but it doesn't mean that they haven't thought about it. It doesn't mean that they've not wanted to check out at some point because the pressure's too high. So talking about it is absolutely number one. I felt from
That's
the very
start.
beginning.
You have to talk about it.
We
You
have
to
felt
get
from
it
the
out in
very
open.
beginning that God gave us an ability to talk very openly about this.
It's important to be able to get these kids out of that moment and to know that you'll be okay beyond that moment.